The harsh fluorescent lights of St. Michael's Hospital emergency room made Lucas Harding's eyes ache as he slumped in the uncomfortable plastic chair. His 6-year-old daughter Emma asleep against his shoulder, despite the chaos around them. He hadn't planned to spend his Thursday night in the ER, but when his neighbor Mrs. Peterson had called in a panic about her son Tyler's sudden high fever and asthma attack, Lucas couldn't say no, not when she'd watched Emma countless times when his construction jobs ran late. Mr. Peterson. A nurse called out, scanning the crowded waiting room. Lucas gently shifted Emma and stood up. "He's not here yet. I'm watching Tyler until his mom arrives. She's on her way from the airport." The nurse looked skeptical, but nodded toward the sleeping 8-year-old boy curled up in the chair next to Lucas's empty one. "We can take him back now." Lucas carefully transferred Emma to his hip, her small arms instinctively tightening around his neck even in sleep. He then bent down and gently shook Tyler's shoulder. "Hey, buddy, the doctor's ready to see you now." Tyler's eyes fluttered open, glassy with fever. "Where's my mom?" "She's coming as fast as she can," Lucas promised, helping the boy to his feet. "I'll stay with you until she gets here, okay?" The nurse led them through double doors into the examination area, where a pediatric resident quickly assessed Tyler. Lucas balanced, providing what limited information he knew about Tyler's medical history while keeping Emma comfortable as she dozed against him. "His fever's 103.5 and his oxygen levels are concerning," the young doctor said. "We need to start treatment immediately." "Are you certain you're not a legal guardian?" Lucas shook his head. "His mom should be here soon. She was on a business trip and is coming straight from the airport." The doctor frowned. "We really need parental consent. I have it," Lucas said quickly, pulling out his phone. "Mrs. Peterson sent me a text authorizing me to seek medical care. She's a single mom, and I've known Tyler since he was 4. The doctor still looked uncertain, but Tyler's wheezing had worsened, and the boy looked frightened. Lucas placed a reassuring hand on Tyler's shoulder while keeping Emma balanced on his hip. "Please," Lucas said quietly. "I promised I wouldn't leave him alone." Something in his voice must have convinced the doctor, who nodded and began ordering medications for Tyler. They were moved to a curtained area where a nurse started in Roman 4 and administered the first dose of steroids and bronchodilators. Emma stirred as they settled in. "Daddy," she murmured. "Where are we?" "At the hospital, sweetheart," Lucas explained softly. "Tyler isn't feeling well, so we're keeping him company until his mommy gets here." Emma rubbed her eyes, taking in their surroundings with the solemn curiosity of a child who had spent more time in hospitals than most. "Like when I had my operation?" Lucas nodded, his heart twisting a little. Emma's surgeries for her congenital heart condition had drained his savings and maxed out his credit cards despite his insurance. Even with his second job delivering packages on weekends, he was barely keeping up with the medical bills. "Is Tyler going to get better?" Emma asked, now fully awake and concerned for her friend. "I think so, honey. The doctors are helping him right now." Emma climbed down from his lap and went to Tyler's bedside. "Don't be scared," she told the boy seriously. "The doctors here are really nice. My daddy always says being brave doesn't mean you're not scared, it just means you do the right thing anyway." Lucas felt a swell of pride watching his daughter comfort her friend. At 6, she had already endured more than many adults, yet she remained compassionate and resilient. The next hour passed in a blur of medical staff coming and going, Tyler's condition slowly improving with treatment. Emma had fallen asleep again, this time on a chair Lucas had pushed next to Tyler's bed. Lucas himself was fighting to stay awake, exhausted from his 12-hour shift at the construction site that day. "Tyler. Oh my God, Tyler." Lucas's head snapped up at the sound of a woman's voice. Standing in the doorway of the curtained area was one of the most striking women he had ever seen. She wore a rumpled business suit, her caramel-colored hair escaping what had probably been an elegant updo hours earlier. Despite her disheveled appearance, there was something commanding about her presence. Tyler looked up, his face brightening despite his illness. "Mom," the woman rushed to Tyler's side, gathering him carefully in her arms, mindful of the Roman IV. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here, buddy." "I came as fast as I could." Lucas stood awkwardly, suddenly aware of his worn jeans and faded t-shirt. "Mrs. Peterson, I'm Lucas Harding. I know who you are," she interrupted, her eyes softening as she looked at him over Tyler's head. "You're Emma's dad from 4B. Tyler talks about Emma all the time." Her gaze shifted to his sleeping daughter, and her expression softened further. "Thank you for bringing him in. When the school nurse called me in the middle of my meeting, it's no problem," Lucas assured her. "Mrs. Peterson has helped me out plenty of times with Emma." The woman looked confused for a moment, then laughed lightly. "I think there's a misunderstanding. I'm not Mrs. Peterson, she's my aunt. My name is Charlotte Davenport. Tyler is my son." Lucas felt his face flush with embarrassment. "I'm sorry. I just assumed Mrs. Peterson said Tyler's mom was coming from the airport, and it's perfectly understandable," Charlotte said, her smile warm despite the worry lines around her eyes. "I was in Chicago for a conference when Aunt Margaret called. She watches Tyler when I travel for work." Lucas nodded, still embarrassed but relieved she wasn't upset. Now that he looked more closely, he could see the family resemblance between Tyler and Charlotte, the same deep-set brown eyes and determined chin. A doctor entered, interrupting their conversation. "Mrs. Davenport, I'm Dr. Reyes. We've stabilized Tyler's asthma attack, but I'd like to keep him overnight for observation." Charlotte nodded, immediately asking detailed questions about Tyler's treatment plan. Lucas used the opportunity to gently wake Emma. "Time to go, sweetheart," he whispered. "Tyler's mom is here now." Emma rubbed her eyes, looking around in confusion before spotting Charlotte. "Is that Tyler's mommy? She's pretty." Lucas hushed her, though he couldn't help but agree. Even exhausted and worried, Charlotte Davenport was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with her elegant clothes or the subtle glint of what appeared to be very expensive earrings. As the doctor left, Charlotte turned back to Lucas. "I don't know how to thank you enough for stepping in." Not many people would do that for a neighbor's nephew. Lucas shrugged, gathering Emma's small backpack. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Charlotte said firmly, "they wouldn't. Aunt Margaret told me you were working a double shift today. You must be exhausted." Lucas was saved from responding when Emma piped up. "My daddy always helps people. He says that's what makes the world go round." Charlotte knelt to Emma's level. "Your daddy sounds very wise, Emma, and very kind." She looked up at Lucas with genuine gratitude. "I insist on doing something to thank you. Perhaps dinner. Once Tyler is feeling better, of course." "That's really not necessary," Lucas said, feeling strangely flustered. Women like Charlotte Davenport didn't typically ask men like him to dinner. "I should get Emma home. It's way past her bedtime." "Of course," Charlotte nodded, straightening up. "But I'm not taking no for an answer on that thank you dinner. Tyler would love to see Emma again when he's feeling better." "Can we, Daddy?" Emma asked, suddenly energetic despite the late hour. "Tyler promised to show me his new science kit." Lucas found himself caught between his daughter's hopeful expression and Charlotte's determined smile. "Well, when you put it like that, sure, dinner would be nice." Charlotte's smile widened, transforming her tired face. "Wonderful. I'll get your number from Aunt Margaret." As Lucas guided a chattering Emma out of the hospital, he couldn't help glancing back once. Charlotte had returned to Tyler's bedside, one hand smoothing her son's hair while the other tapped rapidly on her phone. There was something compelling about her, a blend of obvious competence and maternal tenderness that made it hard to look away. "Daddy," Emma said as they walked through the parking lot toward their old Honda Civic, "do you think Tyler's mom is a princess? She looks like one." Lucas chuckled, lifting Emma into her booster seat. "No, honey, I don't think she's a princess. Just a regular mom like all the other moms." He had no idea just how wrong he was. 3 days later, Lucas was fixing a leaky faucet in his apartment when there was a knock at the door. Emma raced to answer it before he could stop her. Daddy always says ask who it is first. She called through the door. It's Charlotte Davenport, Tyler's mom, came the amused reply. Emma looked to Lucas for permission before opening the door. Charlotte stood in the hallway holding a large gift basket wrapped in cellophane and tied with an elaborate bow. Sorry to drop by unannounced, she said, but Tyler is feeling much better and wanted me to bring this over. She handed the basket to Lucas, who accepted it with surprise. This is. Wow, thank you, but it's really not necessary. He peered into the basket, seeing expensive chocolates, gift cards, and what looked like handmade thank you cards. Tyler made the cards, Charlotte explained, smiling as Emma bounced excitedly beside them. And I wanted to see if you and Emma might be free for dinner tomorrow night. Tyler's been asking to see Emma since we got home from the hospital. Lucas hesitated. He was scheduled to make deliveries tomorrow evening, his second job that helped cover Emma's medical bills. As if reading his mind, Emma tugged at his shirt. Please, Daddy, I want to see Tyler's science kit. Lucas looked down at his daughter's hopeful face and then back at Charlotte. I actually have to work tomorrow evening. Oh, Charlotte's face fell slightly. Perhaps another time then. But, Lucas continued, surprising himself, I'm free on Sunday if that works for you. Charlotte's smile returned. Sunday would be perfect. We could do lunch. There's a great little Italian place near the park. Lunch sounds nice, Lucas agreed, trying to calculate how much he could afford to spend on a restaurant meal. His budget was tight, especially with Emma's next cardiology appointment coming up. Wonderful. Shall we meet there at noon? It's called Bella Knot on Maple Street. Lucas knew the place, an upscale restaurant he'd walked past but never entered. Sure, we'll be there. After Charlotte left, Emma examined the gift basket with delight. Look, Daddy, there's hot chocolate and cookies, and she pulled out a small stuffed bear, a new friend for Mr. Whiskers. Lucas smiled at her excitement, but couldn't help feeling slightly uncomfortable. The basket probably cost more than he made in a day, and Bella Knot wasn't the kind of place wherein trays cost less than $20. Still, Emma deserved nice things, and it would be good for her to spend time with a friend her age. Sunday arrived quicker than expected. Lucas spent more time than usual getting himself and Emma ready, making sure her dress was properly ironed and her hair neatly braided. He opted for his one decent pair of slacks and a button-down shirt he usually reserved for job interviews. You look handsome, Daddy, Emma declared as they walked to the bus stop. Lucas had considered splurging on a rideshare, but the bus fare was significantly cheaper, even if it meant they needed to leave 45 minutes early. Thank you, Princess. You look very pretty, too. They arrived at Bella not 10 minutes early, but Charlotte and Tyler were already waiting outside. Tyler looked fully recovered, chatting animatedly with his mother. Charlotte was dressed casually in comparison to how Lucas had seen her at the hospital, but her simple sundress and sandals somehow looked more expensive than anything in Lucas's entire wardrobe. Emma, Mr. Harding, Tyler spotted them first, waving enthusiastically. Hi, Tyler. I'm glad you're not sick anymore, Emma said, immediately launching into conversation with her friend. Charlotte smiled at Lucas. You look nice, she said, her eyes quickly taking in his outfit. So do you, he replied, feeling strangely nervous. Thanks again for inviting us. Emma's been looking forward to it all week. The pleasure is all ours, Charlotte assured him as they entered the restaurant. Tyler hasn't stopped talking about how you stayed with him at the hospital. The hostess greeted Charlotte by name, leading them to what was clearly one of the best tables in the restaurant. Lucas tried not to look overwhelmed as he helped Emma into her seat, but everything from the linen, napkins to the array of silverware made it clear this was far more upscale than anywhere he typically ate. They make the best pizza here, Charlotte told Emma with a conspiratorial wink. And they have chocolate lava cake for dessert. Emma's eyes widened. Real lava? Tyler giggled. Not real lava, silly. It just looks like it because the chocolate inside is all melty and flows out when you cut it. That sounds amazing, Emma said with the gravity of a food critic. Lucas picked up the menu and nearly choked when he saw the prices. The least expensive item was a Caesar salad at $17. He discreetly checked his wallet, calculating if his credit card could handle another charge. Charlotte must have noticed his expression because she leaned over and said quietly, "Please order whatever you'd like. This is my treat, a proper thank you for what you did for Tyler." "That's really not, I insist," Charlotte said firmly. "If it helps, consider it a business expense. My company has an entertainment budget that rarely gets used." Before Lucas could ask what she meant by that, the waiter arrived to take their drink orders. Charlotte requested a bottle of sparkling water for the table and a glass of white wine for herself. Lucas opted for just water, and the children asked for apple juice. "So," Charlotte said once the waiter had left, "Emma tells me you work in construction." Lucas nodded. "I'm a carpenter for Davis Building Group. We're working on the new community center downtown." "That sounds fulfilling, creating spaces that serve the community." "It's honest work," Lucas said with a small shrug. "I like building things. Seeing a project go from plans to completion is satisfying." He didn't mention his weekend delivery job, or how often he did odd jobs around their apartment building for extra cash. "What about you? Emma was convinced you might be a princess, but I told her you're probably just a regular mom like everyone else." Charlotte laughed, the sound drawing smiles from several nearby diners. "Not a princess, unfortunately. I work for Davenport Technologies." "Oh," Lucas nodded, vaguely familiar with the name. "What do you do there?" Before Charlotte could answer, Tyler interrupted. "Mom runs the whole company." "She's the boss of everyone." Lucas blinked in surprise. "You own Davenport Technologies." Charlotte looked slightly embarrassed. "I'm the CEO, yes. My father founded the company, and I took over after he retired 5 years ago." Lucas struggled to keep his expression neutral. Davenport Technologies was one of the largest software firms in the city, with a gleaming headquarters downtown. He'd actually helped construct an addition to their building 2 years ago. "That's impressive," he managed. Charlotte waved her hand dismissively. "It's just a job. Much less tangible than what you do. I spend most days in meetings or on conference calls." Their conversation was interrupted by the waiter returning for their food order. Charlotte recommended several options, and they eventually settled on 2 pizzas to share, one margarita and one with pepperoni, plus a pasta dish for the adults. As the kids chatted about school and Tyler's science kit, Lucas found himself surprisingly comfortable talking with Charlotte. Despite their obviously different financial situations, she was down to earth and genuinely interested in his work and life. "Emma mentioned she had surgery," Charlotte said after the food arrived. "Is she okay?" Lucas nodded, automatically glancing at his daughter to make sure she wasn't listening. She and Tyler were completely absorbed in trying to see who could twirl the most spaghetti on their forks. "Congenital heart defect," he explained quietly. "She had her first surgery when she was 2 and another last year. She's doing great now, but we still have regular checkups." Charlotte's expression was sympathetic without being pitying. "That must be challenging. She's clearly thriving, though. You're doing an amazing job with her." "Thanks," Lucas said, feeling a familiar tightness in his chest whenever he thought about Emma's health struggles. "It's just been the 2 of us since she was a baby. Her mom decided parenthood wasn't for her." He hadn't meant to share something so personal, but there was something about Charlotte that made him feel he could be honest. "Single parenting is tough," Charlotte agreed. "Tyler's father and I separated when he was 3. He lives in Europe now, sees Tyler maybe twice a year." "That's rough," Lucas said. "Emma doesn't even remember her mother. Sometimes I worry about that, her not having a female influence in her life." "From what I've seen, you're doing just fine," Charlotte assured him. "And it looks like she's got quite a fan in Tyler." Sure enough, the children were now giggling together, with Tyler showing Emma some trick with his straw wrapper. The rest of the meal passed pleasantly, with conversation flowing easily. Lucas found himself laughing more than he had in months. And even Emma, who could sometimes be shy around new people, was chattering happily. When the check came, Charlotte smoothly handed over her credit card before Lucas could even reach for his wallet. "This was my invitation," she reminded him when he tried to protest. "Please, let me." As they left the restaurant, Tyler asked if they could go to the park across the street. The children raced ahead while Lucas and Charlotte followed at a more sedate pace. "Thank you for lunch," Lucas said. "It was really nice." "I enjoyed it too," Charlotte replied, her eyes following Tyler as he showed Emma how to use the monkey bars. "More than I expected, actually." Something in her tone made Lucas glance at her curiously. "What do you mean?" Charlotte seemed to consider her words carefully. "I don't often get to just be a regular person, a mom having lunch with another parent. Usually, when people find out what I do, they either want something from me or treat me differently." "Well, I definitely don't want anything," Lucas joked. "Except maybe the recipe for that chocolate lava cake. Emma's going to be talking about that for weeks." Charlotte laughed, and Lucas felt an unexpected warmth in his chest at the sound. "I might be able to arrange that. The chef is a friend." They reached a bench and sat down, watching as Emma and Tyler took turns on the slide. "How did you end up raising Emma alone?" Charlotte asked after a comfortable silence. "If you don't mind me asking," Lucas sighed, stretching his legs out in front of him. "Her mom and I weren't married. We'd only been dating about 6 months when she got pregnant. She wanted an abortion, but I already loved that baby, even though I'd just found out about her." He ran a hand through his hair. "I told Melissa I'd raise the baby myself if she didn't want to be a mother." She agreed, signed away her parental rights after Emma was born, and moved to California. Last I heard, she was working for a tech startup in San Francisco. That must have been terrifying, suddenly becoming a single father. Honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Lucas's gaze found Emma, who was now attempting to climb a tree with Tyler's guidance. "I was kind of drifting before Emma, working construction jobs, hanging out with friends, no real purpose. The minute I held her, everything changed." Charlotte nodded. "I understand that feeling. Tyler transformed my world too, though I admit, having my family's company and resources made single parenthood less daunting for me." "You've done a great job with him," Lucas said sincerely. "He's a good kid." "Thank you." Charlotte hesitated, then added, "I'd like to do this again sometime." The children get along so well, and she met his eyes directly. "I've enjoyed talking with you." Lucas felt a flutter of something that might have been nervousness or excitement. "I'd like that too." They exchanged phone numbers properly this time, rather than through Mrs. Peterson, and agreed to set up another playdate soon. As Lucas and Emma headed toward the bus stop later that afternoon, he found himself already looking forward to seeing Charlotte again. "I like Tyler's mom," Emma announced as they waited for the bus. "She smells like cookies and sunshine." Lucas chuckled. "That's a very specific observation." "She makes you smile, Daddy. You should be friends." Out of the mouths of babes, Lucas thought, smiling down at his perceptive daughter, "Maybe we will be, Princess, maybe we will be." The following weeks brought a series of playdates and casual dinners. Each time, Lucas protested Charlotte's insistence on paying, but she always had a logical argument ready. She'd invited them. It was her turn. She had a gift certificate that needed using. He suspected none of these excuses were true, but he eventually stopped arguing, focusing instead on finding small ways to contribute. Bringing dessert he'd baked with Emma, offering to drive when they went to the Children's Museum. Charlotte had seemed genuinely delighted to ride in his old Honda. And once fixing Tyler's broken model rocket the night before a school science fair. They fell into an easy friendship, with Charlotte often texting Lucas photos of Tyler's latest science experiments or asking his advice about home repairs. In turn, Lucas found himself sharing stories about his day or sending pictures of Emma's art projects. They carefully avoided discussing finances or careers, focusing instead on their children, shared interests, and the day-to-day challenges of single parenthood. Lucas couldn't remember the last time he'd connected so easily with someone. Charlotte was smart, funny, and surprisingly down to earth despite her obvious wealth and status. More than once, he caught himself wondering if their friendship might develop into something more, but he always dismissed the thought. Women like Charlotte didn't date men, like him men who counted pennies at the end of the month and lived in apartments with unreliable heating. Reality intruded one Thursday evening in October, about 6 weeks after they'd met. Lucas was giving Emma her bath when his phone rang with Charlotte's name on the display. "Hey," he answered, balancing the phone between his ear and shoulder while helping Emma rinse shampoo from her hair. "Everything okay?" "Not really," Charlotte sounded frazzled. "I'm stuck at the office with an emergency. Our main server crashed, and we've got clients in Singapore waiting for a product launch that's supposed to happen in 3 hours. Aunt Margaret is visiting her sister in Florida, and my regular sitter just called in sick." "I hate to ask, but you need someone to watch Tyler," Lucas finished for her. "No problem, bring him over." "Are you sure? I know it's a school night, Charlotte," Lucas interrupted gently. "It's fine. Emma will be thrilled to have a sleepover, and Tyler can borrow my t-shirt to sleep in. Just pack his school clothes and whatever else he needs." The relief in Charlotte's voice was palpable. "Thank you. I'll drop him off in 20 minutes. You're a lifesaver, Lucas." "That's what friends are for," he said, ignoring the small twinge he felt at the word friends. Emma was ecstatic about the unexpected sleepover, immediately planning which toys she would share with Tyler. Lucas quickly straightened up the apartment, acutely aware of how small and modest it was compared to Charlotte's spacious condo, where he and Emma had visited several times. When Charlotte arrived with Tyler, she looked every inch the powerful CEO in her tailored suit and heels, though her expression was harried. "I can't thank you enough," she said, handing Lucas a backpack with Tyler's things. "I have no idea how long this will take. I might have to stay all night." "Take as long as you need," Lucas assured her. "We've got this covered." Tyler, already comfortable in Lucas's home from previous visits, immediately joined Emma in her bedroom to see her new Lego set. Charlotte hesitated in the doorway. "Lucas, her phone buzzed insistently, and she grimaced. "I have to go. Thank you again." "Go save your company," Lucas said with a smile. "Tyler will be fine." After Charlotte left, Lucas helped the children build an elaborate blanket fort in the living room where they ate pizza and watched a movie before bedtime. Tyler seemed perfectly at ease sleeping on the pull-out sofa, with Emma in her small bedroom nearby. It was nearly 2 a.m. when Lucas's phone buzzed with a text from Charlotte. "Crisis contained. Server back up. We'll collect exhausted CEO and sleeping child in the morning if that's okay. Don't want to wake everyone now." Lucas texted back his agreement and finally went to bed himself, oddly comforted by the sounds of 2 sleeping children in his small apartment. The next morning, he woke early to make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, a specialty that Emma always requested when they had guests. The children were still eating when there was a soft knock at the door. Charlotte stood there looking completely different from the polished executive of the previous evening. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. "You look like you could use some coffee and pancakes," Lucas said by way of greeting. "God, yes," Charlotte groaned, stepping inside. "Is that actually coffee I smell? Real coffee, not the swill from our office machine?" "Fresh ground," Lucas confirmed, leading her to the kitchen. I splurged. Charlotte accepted the mug he offered with something close to reverence, closing her eyes as she took the first sip. "You're an angel," she murmured. "Mommy," Tyler spotted her and ran over for a hug. "Lucas made dinosaur pancakes, mine's a T-Rex." "Is that right?" Charlotte smiled tiredly. "Did you save some for me?" "I'll make you a fresh batch," Lucas offered, already turning back to the stove. "Sit, relax, you look like you've been through the ringer." 22 hours at the office will do that, Charlotte sighed, dropping into a chair beside Emma. who immediately began explaining the difference between her Stegosaurus pancake and Tyler's T-Rex. As Lucas mixed more batter, he found himself stealing glances at Charlotte. Even exhausted and dressed down, she was beautiful. There was something incredibly appealing about seeing her like this, unguarded, without the polished veneer she usually maintained. "These are amazing," Charlotte declared after taking her first bite of pancakes. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "My grandmother," Lucas explained, joining them at the small kitchen table. "She raised me after my parents died, and she believed every person should know how to cook properly." "She was right," Charlotte said, taking another appreciative bite. "My culinary expertise extends to exactly 3 meals, which is why Tyler gets so excited about your cooking." "Daddy makes the best everything," Emma informed Charlotte seriously, "but especially pancakes and spaghetti and chocolate chip cookies." "Is that so?" Charlotte smiled at Lucas over the rim of her coffee mug. "Sounds like I need to invite myself over for dinner sometime instead of always dragging you two out to restaurants." "You're welcome anytime," Lucas said, surprised to realize how much he meant it. His apartment might be small and modest, but the thought of Charlotte and Tyler sharing more meals at his table was unexpectedly appealing. After breakfast, as the children brushed their teeth, Charlotte helped Lucas clear the dishes despite his protests. "Thank you for taking Tyler last night," she said quietly, handing him a plate to dry. "I don't know what I would have done otherwise. It was no trouble, he's a great kid." Charlotte's hands stilled in the soapy water. "Lucas, I wanted to ask you something." Something in her tone made him look up sharply. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, it's just," she bit her lip, suddenly looking uncertain. "Tyler's school has this fall festival next weekend. Parents and kids do activities together, there's a potluck dinner, that sort of thing. Tyler really wants to go, but I have to fly to New York for an investor meeting." "Can't you reschedule?" Lucas asked, knowing how important school events were to children. Charlotte shook her head. "I've already rescheduled twice. If I push it again, we could lose financing for a project that would create jobs for over 100 people." She took a deep breath. "Tyler asked if you could take him, if you and Emma could go with him." Lucas blinked in surprise. "Me, but it's a parent-child event." "I know it's a lot to ask," Charlotte said quickly. "But Tyler adores you. He talks about you all the time, how you showed him how to use tools, how you helped him with his science project. He doesn't have many male role models in his life. His father hasn't visited in over a year." Lucas felt a complex mix of emotions: pride that Tyler thought so highly of him, sympathy for Charlotte's dilemma, and a strange sense of rightness at the idea of helping out. "I'd be honored to take him," Lucas said finally. "Emma would love it too." Relief washed over Charlotte's face. "Really?" "You don't think it's inappropriate or it's fine," Lucas assured her. "Friends help each other out, right?" Charlotte's smile faltered slightly at the word friends, but she nodded. "Right, thank you." Later, as Charlotte and Tyler were preparing to leave, Tyler gave Lucas an enthusiastic hug. "Thanks for the sleepover, Lucas. Can we do it again sometime?" "Anytime, buddy," Lucas promised, ruffling the boy's hair. As he closed the door behind them, Emma looked up at him thoughtfully. "Daddy, do you like Tyler's mom? Really like her?" Lucas was startled by the question. "Charlotte's a good friend. Why do you ask?" Emma shrugged with the wisdom of a 6-year-old. "Because you look at her the way Prince Charming looks at Cinderella in my book, and she looks at you the same way when you're not watching." Lucas didn't know how to respond to that, so he simply suggested they clean up the blanket fort. But Emma's words stayed with him long after the living room was back in order. The school festival was a bigger event than Lucas had anticipated. Oak Grove Elementary's campus was transformed with autumn decorations, game booths, and activity stations. Tyler had been practically vibrating with excitement when Lucas picked him up, proudly introducing Lucas and Emma to his teachers and friends. "This is Lucas and Emma," he told his teacher. "They're our special friends. Lucas builds buildings and makes the best pancakes ever. Miss Winters, Tyler's second-grade teacher, shook Lucas's hand with a warm smile. "Tyler talks about you and Emma all the time. It's nice to finally meet you." Charlotte mentioned she had to travel for work this weekend. "Yes, she had an important meeting," Lucas explained, feeling slightly awkward. "She asked if I could bring Tyler so he wouldn't miss out." "That's very kind of you," Miss Winters said, giving him an appraising look. "Tyler's lucky to have you in his life." Before Lucas could formulate a response to that somewhat loaded statement, Tyler was tugging at his hand. "Can we do the pumpkin decorating station first, please?" The next few hours passed in a blur of activities decorating pumpkins, completing a haunted obstacle course, and playing carnival-style games where both children won small prizes. Lucas found himself genuinely enjoying the event, especially watching Tyler and Emma interact with their peers. Several parents assumed Lucas was Tyler's father, and after the first few misunderstandings, he stopped correcting them, finding it easier to simply go along with it. During the potluck dinner, they sat with several of Tyler's classmates and their families. Lucas had brought his grandmother's famous mac and cheese, which proved popular with children and adults alike. "So, how long have you and Tyler's mom been together?" asked one mother as they watched the children comparing prize tickets. "Oh, we're just friends," Lucas explained, feeling his face warm. "I'm helping out because she had to travel for work." "Really?" The woman looked surprised. "Tyler talks about you constantly. I just assumed—" Lucas cleared his throat. "Charlotte and I met when Tyler had an asthma attack and ended up in the ER. I was watching him for his great-aunt until Charlotte could get there." "How romantic," another mother sighed. "Like something from a movie." "It wasn't romantic," Lucas protested. "I was just helping out a neighbor." The women exchanged knowing looks that made Lucas distinctly uncomfortable. He was saved from further discussion when Tyler and Emma returned, asking if they could participate in the cakewalk. As the evening wound down, Tyler grew quieter. Sitting on a bench while Emma got her face painted, the boy leaned against Lucas's side. "You okay, buddy?" Lucas asked, concerned by Tyler's sudden, subdued mood. Tyler nodded but didn't look up. "I just wish my mom could be here too." Lucas put an arm around the boy's shoulders. "I know." She really wanted to be here, but sometimes grown-ups have responsibilities they can't change, even when they want to. "My dad always says that too, but he never comes to anything," Tyler said, his voice small. "Mom tries to come to everything, but sometimes she can't. It's not fair that some kids have two parents, and I don't even have one here today." Lucas felt his heart squeeze. "Hey, look at me." He waited until Tyler raised his eyes. "Your mom works incredibly hard because she loves you and wants to give you the best life possible. And yes, it stinks that sometimes that means missing things like tonight. But you know what? You're not alone. You've got Emma and me here with you, plus all your friends, and I bet your mom will call tonight to hear all about the festival." Tyler seemed to consider this. "You're right. And she did promise to take me to the Science Museum next weekend to make up for missing tonight. See, she's doing her best to balance everything." Lucas hesitated, then added, "I'm not trying to replace your dad, Tyler. But I want you to know that anytime your mom needs help, or you need someone to be there for school stuff, I'm happy to do it. That's what friends are for." Tyler's expression brightened. "Really? Even for the science fair in January? It's a big deal, and Mom might have to go to Japan that week." "Even for the science fair," Lucas promised, mentally adjusting his work schedule already. "Now, should we go check on Emma? I think she's getting a butterfly painted on her cheek." By the time Lucas got both tired children home, it was past 9. He had offered to keep Tyler overnight so Charlotte wouldn't have to pick him up after a long day of travel. Her flight was scheduled to land around midnight, and she had gratefully accepted Lucas's offer. Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the excitement of the festival. Tyler lasted a bit longer, insisting on calling his mother to tell her about all the activities before finally succumbing to sleep on Lucas's pull-out sofa. Lucas was dozing in his recliner, a home improvement show playing quietly on the television, when a soft knock at the door startled him awake. Glancing at his watch, he was surprised to see it was only 10:30 p.m. Charlotte stood in the hallway, still dressed in business attire, but with an air of weariness that even her perfect posture couldn't disguise. "You're early," Lucas said, stepping back to let her in. "I thought your flight wasn't getting in until midnight." "I switched to an earlier flight," Charlotte explained, keeping her voice low. "I couldn't stop thinking about missing the festival. How did it go?" "It was great," Lucas assured her, leading her to the living room where Tyler slept peacefully. "Tyler had a blast. I took plenty of pictures." He showed her his phone, scrolling through images of Tyler playing games, decorating a pumpkin, and posing with Emma and their prizes. Charlotte's eyes softened as she looked at the sleeping form of her son. "Thank you for doing this, Lucas. It means more than you know." "He missed you," Lucas said gently, but he understood. He's a pretty amazing kid. "He is, isn't he?" Charlotte's voice held a note of pride. "Sometimes I worry that my work takes too much away from him, that I'm failing him somehow." "You're not failing him," Lucas said firmly. "You're showing him that women can be leaders and decision-makers. You're teaching him the importance of responsibility and commitment. And most importantly, you make sure he knows he's loved, even when you can't be physically present." Charlotte looked at him with surprise, as though she hadn't expected such insight. "When did you get so wise about parenting?" Lucas shrugged. "Just calling it like I see it." "Tyler knows you'd rather have been at the festival with him. He also knows you're coming back with a special trip to the Science Museum. That's good parenting in my book." "Speaking of good parenting," Charlotte said softly, gesturing toward his phone, "show me more pictures." They sat together on the edge of the recliner, shoulders touching as Lucas scrolled through the festival photos. Charlotte's genuine delight at seeing Tyler enjoying himself made Lucas feel as though he'd given her something precious. "I should probably take him home," Charlotte said eventually, though she made no move to wake Tyler. "It's getting late." "He's pretty solidly asleep," Lucas observed. "You could leave him here for the night as planned, unless you need to get him home for some reason." Charlotte hesitated. "I don't want to impose more than I already have." "It's not an imposition," Lucas assured her. "In fact." He paused, then decided to take a chance. "Why don't you stay too? You look exhausted, and my coffee maker is set to go off at 7. You could crash here, get a decent night's sleep, and we could all have breakfast together in the morning. I make pretty good waffles too." For a moment, he thought she would refuse. Then her shoulders slumped slightly, the executive facade cracking to reveal just how tired she really was. "That sounds really nice, actually, if you're sure it's not too much trouble." "Not at all. You can take my bed and I'll sleep out here in the recliner." "I couldn't put you out of your bed," Charlotte protested. "You're not putting me out of anything." "I fall asleep in this chair half the time anyway." Lucas stood up before she could argue further. "I'll get you something to sleep in and show you where everything is." 15 minutes later, Charlotte emerged from the bathroom wearing Lucas's old flannel pajama pants, rolled several times at the waist, and a faded concert t-shirt. With her face freshly washed and her hair loose around her shoulders, she looked younger and far more vulnerable than the polished CEO he was accustomed to seeing. "Thank you for this," she said, sitting on the edge of his bed. "For everything today, taking Tyler to the festival, letting us stay over, just all of it." "You don't need to keep thanking me," Lucas said, standing awkwardly in the doorway. "That's what. If you say that's what friends are for one more time, I might scream," Charlotte interrupted, a strange intensity in her expression. Lucas blinked, taken aback. "I was going to say that's what people do for people they care about." Charlotte's expression softened. "Oh." There was a moment of charged silence, broken when Lucas cleared his throat. "Well, good night. Sleep as late as you want tomorrow. It's Saturday, so no rush." "Good night, Lucas," Charlotte said quietly, "and thank you again." As he settled into the recliner, Lucas couldn't help replaying Charlotte's reaction to the word friends. There had been something in her tone, something that hinted at feelings beyond simple friendship. Or was he just projecting his own growing attraction? He fell asleep, still pondering the question, only to be awakened a few hours later by the sound of quiet footsteps. Opening his eyes, he saw Charlotte in the dim light from the window, getting a glass of water from the kitchen. "Everything okay?" he whispered, careful not to wake the children. Charlotte started slightly. "Yes, just thirsty. Sorry I woke you. It's fine." Lucas checked his watch, 3:18 a.m. "Can't sleep," Charlotte shook her head. "Too much on my mind, I guess." Lucas gestured to the couch beside his recliner. "Want to talk about it?" After a moment's hesitation, Charlotte sat down, tucking her feet under her. "It's nothing specific, just life, work, parenting, all of it." "The glamorous life of a CEO isn't all it's cracked up to be?" Lucas asked with a small smile. Charlotte huffed a quiet laugh. "Hardly. It's mostly stress, difficult decisions, and missing important moments in my son's life." "But you're making a difference," Lucas pointed out. "Creating jobs, developing products that help people, that counts for something." "I know, it's just—" Charlotte sighed. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth the sacrifices. Tyler's growing up so fast, and I'm missing too much of it." Lucas thought carefully before responding. "What would happen if you stepped back a bit, delegated more? Surely the company wouldn't collapse if you took more time for yourself and Tyler." "It's not that simple," Charlotte began, then stopped herself. "Actually, maybe it is that simple, and I've been making it complicated. My father managed to run the company and still coach my soccer team and attend my recitals. Different time, different expectations," Lucas suggested. "Plus, you're dealing with biases he never faced. Female CEOs are held to impossible standards." Charlotte looked at him with surprise. "That's unexpectedly insightful." Lucas shrugged. "I have a daughter. I pay attention to these things." "You're full of surprises, Lucas Harding," Charlotte said softly. "Most people see the CEO title and either want something from me or put me on a pedestal. You just see me." "I like what I see," Lucas admitted, the late hour and intimate darkness making him braver than he might otherwise have been. Charlotte's breath caught audibly. "Lucas," whatever she was about to say was interrupted by Tyler calling out in his sleep. Charlotte was immediately on her feet, going to soothe her son back to sleep. By the time she returned, the moment had passed, and they both agreed it was time to try to get some rest. The next morning brought the chaos of two excited children and the smell of fresh waffles. Lucas was grateful for the bustle and activity, as it provided a buffer against the lingering awareness of the unfinished conversation from the night before. Charlotte, looking refreshed despite the early hour, pitched in with breakfast preparations, helping Emma set the table while Lucas cooked. There was a comfortable domesticity to the scene that felt both natural and dangerous natural, because it seemed to fit so effortlessly. Dangerous, because Lucas could too easily imagine more mornings like this. "These waffles are even better than the pancakes," Charlotte declared, taking another bite. "Your grandmother taught you well." "Grandma Rose said food is love," Emma informed her seriously. "That's why Daddy's food tastes so good, because he makes it with extra love." Tyler nodded in agreement, his mouth full of waffle and strawberries. Charlotte's eyes met Lucas's over the children's heads, and something passed between them, a recognition, perhaps, of how right this felt. After breakfast, as Charlotte prepared to take Tyler home, she pulled Lucas aside while the children gathered Tyler's belongings. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice low enough that the children couldn't hear, "about what you said last night, about delegating more and creating better balance." Lucas nodded, waiting for her to continue. "I'm going to make some changes," Charlotte said decisively, "starting with blocking off my calendar every Friday afternoon. No meetings, no calls, just time for Tyler. And," she hesitated, "maybe sometimes for friends too." The emphasis she placed on the word friends made it clear she was referencing their earlier conversation. "That sounds like a good start," Lucas said carefully. "I also wanted to ask." Charlotte broke off as the children bounded back into the room. "We'll talk later," she promised quietly. The following Friday afternoon, Lucas was surprised to receive a text from Charlotte. Taking my first Friday afternoon off. Tyler's at a playdate. Any chance you're free for coffee? My treat. Lucas, who had just finished his shift early due to rain stopping work at the construction site, replied that he'd be happy to meet her. Emma was at school for another 2 hours, giving him some rare time to himself. They met at a small cafe halfway between their homes. Charlotte was already there when he arrived, dressed more casually than he was used to seeing her in jeans and a simple blouse. "This is a nice surprise," Lucas said as he slid into the chair across from her. "How does it feel to play hooky from work?" Charlotte smiled, pushing a coffee toward him. "I already ordered for you. Black with 1 sugar, right?" "Perfect," Lucas confirmed, touched that she remembered. "You didn't answer my question. How does freedom feel?" "Strange," Charlotte admitted. "I kept checking my phone every 5 minutes until I finally put it on Do Not Disturb. But also, nice, really nice, actually." "Good for you," Lucas said sincerely. "Everyone needs downtime." Charlotte looked at him thoughtfully. "Do you ever take downtime? Between your full-time job, your weekend deliveries, and being a single dad, when do you rest?" Lucas was surprised she knew about his second job. He didn't remember mentioning it to her. "When did I tell you about the delivery job?" Charlotte looked slightly embarrassed. "You didn't. Tyler mentioned seeing you delivering packages to our neighbor when he was at his friend's house on Saturday." She hesitated. "Lucas, can I ask you something personal?" Lucas nodded cautiously, wrapping his hands around the warm coffee mug. "Sure, are you? Struggling financially? Because if you are, I'm doing fine," Lucas interrupted, a defensive edge creeping into his voice. "We have everything we need." "I didn't mean to offend you," Charlotte said quickly. "It's just, if you're working 2 jobs to make ends meet, Emma's medical bills are expensive," Lucas explained, not meeting her eyes. "Insurance covers most of it, but there are still co-pays, medications, special dietary needs sometimes. The second job helps keep us afloat." Charlotte was quiet for a moment. "I admire that," she finally said. "Your dedication to Emma, but it must be exhausting." Lucas shrugged. "You do what you have to do for your kids. You understand that as well as anyone." "I do," Charlotte agreed. "Though I recognize I have advantages most single parents don't. Financial security makes a huge difference." "It would," Lucas acknowledged, "but money isn't everything. Emma doesn't care that we don't have the newest gadgets or fancy vacations. She cares that I'm there for her school events and that we have pancake Sundays and movie nights. That's what matters." Charlotte's expression softened. "You're a remarkable father, Lucas. Emma is lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," he said simply. "She makes everything worthwhile." They fell into easier conversation after that, carefully avoiding the topics of money and work. Instead, they discovered shared interests in hiking, though Charlotte admitted she rarely found time for it anymore, classic movies, and a mutual addiction to true crime podcasts. "I should probably get going soon," Lucas said eventually, checking the time. "I need to pick Emma up from school." "Of course," Charlotte nodded. "This was nice, though. Thank you for meeting me on such short notice." "Anytime," Lucas said, meaning it. "I'm glad you're making time for yourself." As they stood to leave, Charlotte suddenly touched his arm. "Lucas, I've been wanting to ask you something, but the timing never seems right." Lucas felt a flutter of nerves. "What is it?" Charlotte took a deep breath. "I'm hosting a charity gala for the Children's Hospital next Saturday. It's a big event dinner, dancing, silent auction. Would you consider being my date?" Lucas stared at her, caught completely off guard. "Your date? To a fancy gala?" "Yes," Charlotte said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I know it's not your usual scene, but I'd really like you to be there, with me." Lucas's mind raced. A high society charity event was so far outside his comfort zone that it might as well be on another planet. He didn't own a tuxedo, didn't know which fork to use for the salad, and would be completely out of place among Charlotte's wealthy peers. "Charlotte, I don't think I'd fit in at something like that." "You wouldn't be there to fit in," Charlotte said earnestly. You'd be there with me, and truthfully, I can't think of anyone I'd rather have by my side." The sincerity in her voice made Lucas's resolve weaken. "What about Emma?" "I can't leave her alone at night." "Mrs. Peterson already offered to watch both children," Charlotte said quickly. "She's fond of Emma, and Tyler would love a sleepover with her." "You've thought this through," Lucas observed, both touched and wary. "I have," Charlotte admitted. "But if you're really uncomfortable with the idea, I understand. No pressure." Lucas looked at her hopeful expression and found himself unable to disappoint her. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll go, but I don't own a tux, and I don't know the first thing about these kinds of events." Charlotte's face lit up with genuine delight. "Don't worry about the tux. The event planner works with an excellent tailor who can help with that, and as for the rest..." She smiled warmly. "Just be yourself. That's all I want." As Lucas walked to Emma's school, he wondered what he'd gotten himself into. A charity gala with Charlotte meant stepping fully into her world, a world of wealth and privilege that was entirely foreign to him. But the memory of her smile when he agreed made the anxiety seem worth it. The week leading up to the gala passed in a blur of preparations. True to her word, Charlotte arranged for Lucas to meet with a tailor who efficiently measured him for a tuxedo rental. When Lucas attempted to pay, he was informed that it had already been taken care of. He wanted to protest, but swallowed his pride, recognizing that Charlotte was trying to make things easier for him, not demean him. The night of the gala arrived, and Lucas felt distinctly out of his element as he stood before the mirror in his rented tuxedo. Emma, excited about her sleepover with Tyler, watched him from the doorway of his bedroom. "You look like a prince, Daddy," she declared. "Are you going to dance with Tyler's mom?" "Maybe," Lucas said, adjusting his bow tie for the 5th time, "if she wants to." Emma nodded sagely. "She'll want to. She always looks at you like Sofia Rodriguez's mom looks at the firefighter who lives next door." Lucas chuckled at his daughter's observation. "Is that right? And how does Sofia's mom look at the firefighter?" "Like she wants to kiss him," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Sophia says they're in love, but they don't know it yet." Before Lucas could respond to that unexpected insight, there was a knock at the door. Mrs. Peterson had arrived to collect Emma, and moments later, Lucas was alone in the apartment, waiting for his ride. Charlotte had insisted on sending a car for him, despite his protests that he could drive himself or take the bus. The sleek Blacktown car that pulled up outside his building felt like a spaceship landing in his ordinary world. The driver, professional and courteous, held the door for Lucas and didn't bat an eye at the modest apartment building. The gala was being held at the Grand Meridian Hotel, one of the most exclusive venues in the city. As the car pulled up to the entrance, Lucas took a deep breath, reminding himself that he was here for Charlotte, not to impress anyone else. The hotel lobby was transformed for the event, with elegant decorations and soft lighting creating an atmosphere of refined luxury. Lucas followed the signs to the ballroom, where a registration table was set up just outside the main doors. "Lucas Harding," he told the attendant, half expecting to be turned away. Instead, the young woman smiled brightly. "Yes, Mr. Harding, you're Miss Davenport's guest. She asked to be notified when you arrived." The woman pressed a button on her earpiece. "Miss Davenport, your guest has arrived. Yes, I'll let him know." She looked back at Lucas. "Miss Davenport will meet you just inside. Please go right in." Lucas thanked her and entered the ballroom, immediately overwhelmed by the opulence of the scene. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables draped in white linen and adorned with elaborate floral arrangements. A string quartet played softly in one corner, while elegantly dressed attendees mingled, champagne glasses in hand. Lucas. He turned at the sound of Charlotte's voice and felt the air leave his lungs. She was stunning in a midnight blue gown that seemed to float around her, her hair swept up to reveal the elegant line of her neck. But it was her smile, warm, genuine, and directed solely at him, that truly took his breath away. "You look beautiful," he said simply, unable to find more elaborate words. "And you clean up very nicely yourself," Charlotte replied, her eyes appreciative as they took in his tuxedo. "I'm so glad you came." "I almost didn't recognize the place," Lucas admitted, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing server. "I helped install the crown molding in this room 2 years ago during renovations. It looks different from up on a ladder." Charlotte laughed, a sound that drew glances from those nearby. "Only you would look at a room like this and think about construction details." "Occupational hazard," Lucas shrugged, grinning. "So what happens at these things? I don't want to embarrass you." "You could never embarrass me," Charlotte said firmly. "But typically, we mingle, have dinner, listen to a few speeches about the charity, then there's dancing and the silent auction results. Nothing too complicated." "Right. Nothing complicated about making small talk with the richest people in the city," Lucas muttered. Charlotte slipped her arm through his. "Just be yourself. That's why I wanted you here." She leaned closer, adding quietly, "Besides, half these people are boring as dirt. You'll be the most interesting person in the room." Her confidence in him helped ease Lucas's nerves as she led him around the room, introducing him to various associates and friends. To his surprise, most people seemed genuinely interested when Charlotte mentioned he worked in construction, asking questions about projects he'd worked on or sharing stories about their own home renovations. By the time they were seated for dinner, Lucas had almost forgotten to be intimidated by his surroundings. Charlotte had placed him next to the hospital's chief of pediatric cardiology, who turned out to have treated Emma during one of her surgeries. "Emma Harding, doctor," Ellison said thoughtfully when Lucas mentioned his daughter's condition. "Small girl, big personality, had surgery about a year ago." "That's her," Lucas confirmed, surprised and touched that the doctor remembered his daughter among the hundreds of patients he must see. "Remarkable child, doctor." Ellison nodded. "Her resilience was extraordinary. How is she doing now?" Lucas spent the next 15 minutes discussing Emma's progress, the doctor offering insights and reassurances that put many of Lucas's lingering concerns to rest. Charlotte, seated on Lucas's other side, listened intently, occasionally asking insightful questions that revealed how closely she'd been paying attention to everything Lucas had told her about Emma's condition. After dinner came the speeches, mercifully brief, and then the dancing portion of the evening began. Charlotte was immediately pulled away by various donors and board members wanting a moment of her time, leaving Lucas to observe from the sidelines. He watched as she navigated the crowd with effortless grace, charming and attentive to each person who approached her. Yet he noticed that her eyes frequently sought him out across the room, as if checking that he was still there, still okay. "She's quite something, isn't she?" A voice said beside him. Lucas turned to find an older gentleman with a kind face watching Charlotte. "Yes, she is," Lucas agreed. "I'm Harold Davenport," the man introduced himself, offering his hand. "Charlotte's father." Lucas tried not to show his surprise as he shook the man's hand. "Lucas Harding. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir." "So you're the famous Lucas," Harold said, his eyes twinkling. "Tyler talks about you constantly, and Charlotte mentions you in nearly every conversation we have lately." Lucas wasn't sure how to respond to that. "Your daughter and grandson are wonderful people. I'm lucky to count them as friends." Harold raised an eyebrow. "Friends? Is that what you kids are calling it these days?" Before Lucas could formulate a response, Charlotte appeared at his side, her expression a mixture of delight and wariness. "Dad, I didn't know you were coming tonight." "Last-minute decision," Harold explained, kissing his daughter's cheek. "Your mother sends her love. She's still in Tuscany with her painting group." "I was just getting to know your young man here," Harold continued, gesturing to Lucas. "He seems remarkably down-to-earth for someone dating the CEO of Davenport Technologies." "Dad," Charlotte said warningly, a flush spreading across her cheeks. "Lucas and I aren't. It's fine," Lucas interrupted, surprising himself. "Your father's just looking out for you." Harold's eyebrows rose even higher. "I like him," he declared to Charlotte. He's not intimidated by me. Why would I be? Lucas asked honestly. I'm here as Charlotte's guest because she asked me to come, not to impress anyone or gain anything. I have nothing to hide and nothing to prove. Harold stared at him for a moment, then burst into laughter. Oh, Charlotte, he's perfect. Don't let this one get away. With that enigmatic statement, Harold excused himself to greet an old friend, leaving Charlotte and Lucas in an awkward silence. I'm sorry about that, Charlotte finally said. My father can be direct. It's fine, Lucas assured her. He seems like a good dad who loves his daughter. I can relate to that. Charlotte's expression softened. Would you like to dance? I've fulfilled my mingling obligations for now. Lucas hesitated. I should warn you, I'm not much of a dancer. Just follow my lead, Charlotte said, taking his hand and pulling him toward the dance floor. The string quartet was playing a slow waltz, and Charlotte gently positioned Lucas's hand on her waist, taking his other hand in hers. Just sway to the music, she advised. No one's judging your dance skills. As they moved together, Lucas gradually relaxed, finding a comfortable rhythm. Charlotte felt right in his arms as if she belonged there. Thank you for coming tonight, she said softly. I know this isn't your scene. I'm glad I came, Lucas replied honestly. Though I'm still not entirely sure why you wanted me here. You could have brought someone who knows which fork to use without watching everyone else first. Charlotte laughed softly. I didn't want anyone. I wanted you. She met his eyes directly. Lucas, surely you've realized by now that my feelings for you go beyond friendship. Lucas's heart skipped a beat. I hoped, but I wasn't sure. We're from such different worlds. Different circumstances, Charlotte corrected, not different worlds. What matters is that when I'm with you, I feel like myself, not the CEO, not Tyler's mother, just Charlotte. Do you have any idea how rare that is for me? I think I do, Lucas said thoughtfully. Because I feel the same way when I'm with you. Like I can just be me without worrying about measuring up to some invisible standard. Charlotte's hand tightened in his. So where does that leave us? Lucas took a deep breath. I'd like to find out if you would, but Charlotte, I need you to understand something. I can't and won't become dependent on you financially. My pride won't allow it. I would never expect that, Charlotte said seriously. Your independence and work ethic are part of what I admire about you. All I ask is that you let me be generous sometimes without seeing it as charity or pity. Lucas nodded slowly. I can try, if you'll promise to remember that there are some things money can't buy, and those are often the most important things. Deal, Charlotte whispered, her face tilted up toward his. Lucas didn't think about the crowded room or the disparity in their bank accounts. He simply lowered his head and kissed her gently, feeling her respond with a warmth that made everything else fade away. When they pulled apart, Charlotte's eyes were shining. I've been wanting to do that for weeks, she confessed. Me too, Lucas admitted. Though I wasn't sure a CEO would be interested in a carpenter. This CEO is very interested, Charlotte assured him, her smile radiant. So interested, in fact, that she's considering skipping the rest of this gala to spend more time alone with him. Lucas raised an eyebrow. What about your responsibilities here? I've made my speeches, greeted all the major donors, and the silent auction runs itself, Charlotte said. Besides, I've been working on delegating more, remember? In that case, Lucas said, feeling bold, would you like to get out of here? I know a great little all-night diner that serves the best pie in the city. Charlotte's laugh was like music. Pie sounds perfect. They slipped out of the ballroom, Charlotte pausing only to speak briefly with her event coordinator. Soon they were in Charlotte's car, the elegant gala receding behind them as they headed toward a simpler, but somehow more meaningful, conclusion to their evening. As they sat across from each other in the vinyl booth of Joe's diner, Charlotte in her designer gown and Lucas in his rented tuxedo, sharing a slice of apple pie a la mode, Lucas couldn't help thinking that sometimes the most unexpected paths led to the most perfect destinations. What are you smiling about? Charlotte asked, taking another bite of pie. Just thinking about how I never expected to be here, Lucas answered truthfully. Not just in this diner, but here with you, if Tyler hadn't had an asthma attack that night. I'm grateful every day that you were there, Charlotte said softly. Even though I wish Tyler hadn't been sick, of course. Of course, Lucas agreed, reaching across the table to take her hand. So, where do we go from here? Charlotte intertwined her fingers with his. One day at a time. We'll figure it out together. Together, Lucas repeated, liking the sound of that. I think our kids will be thrilled. Tyler already thinks you hung the moon, Charlotte laughed, and Emma clearly adores you. She thinks you look at me the way Sofia Rodriguez's mom looks at the firefighter next door, Lucas confided, grinning. Apparently, that's the gold standard of romantic interest for 6-year-olds. Charlotte's eyes danced with amusement. Smart girl. She gets that from her father. As they lingered over coffee, talking about everything and nothing, Lucas felt a sense of rightness settle over him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, and there would be many, given their different backgrounds, they would face them together. For now, that was enough. 6 months later, Lucas stood in his kitchen, flipping pancakes while Emma carefully set the table for 4. It was Sunday morning, and as had become their tradition, Charlotte and Tyler would be arriving soon for breakfast. Do you think Tyler will like the science kit I got him? Emma asked, meticulously placing forks beside each plate. I'm sure he will, sweetheart, Lucas assured her. It was thoughtful of you to remember his birthday is next week. Well, he's almost my brother now, Emma said matter-of-factly. That's what Tyler says anyway. Lucas smiled at his daughter's casual acceptance of the changes in their lives. The past 6 months had seen a gradual blending of their families, with weekends often spent together and occasional sleepovers that delighted both children. Charlotte had kept her promise to take Fridays off, and Lucas had been able to quit his weekend delivery job after receiving a promotion to foreman at the construction company. The doorbell rang, and Emma ran to answer it, knowing it would be Charlotte and Tyler. Lucas heard their voices in the hallway, Tyler excitedly telling Emma about a science experiment he'd done at school. Charlotte laughing at something Emma said. When Charlotte entered the kitchen, her face lit up at the sight of Lucas. Even after 6 months of dating, that look never failed to make his heart race. She crossed the room and kissed him softly. Good morning, she murmured. Something smells amazing. Banana pancakes, Lucas replied, sliding an arm around her waist. Your favorite. Charlotte leaned into him, watching as the children disappeared into Emma's room to look at a new book. I have news, she said quietly. Lucas raised an eyebrow. Good news or bad news? Good, I think, Charlotte took a deep breath. I've been offered the chance to step back a bit at work. Dad wants to create a co-CEO position, with me focusing on product development while someone else handles the day-to-day operations. It would mean a more regular schedule, less travel, more time with Tyler. And with you and Emma. Lucas set down his spatula, turning to face her fully. Is that something you want? Charlotte nodded. I've been thinking about it for months, actually. The company will still benefit from my vision and leadership, but I won't have to sacrifice so much of my personal life. She hesitated. What do you think? I think, Lucas said carefully, that you should do what makes you happy. If this new arrangement would give you more balance and satisfaction, then I'm all for it. It would mean I could pick Tyler up from school most days, Charlotte said, her excitement growing. Be home for dinner every night, take actual vacations without my phone attached to my hand. Sounds like you've already made up your mind, Lucas observed, smiling. I think I have, Charlotte agreed, but there's something else I wanted to talk to you about. Before she could continue, the children burst back into the kitchen, Tyler holding Emma's new book about the solar system. The serious conversation was put on hold as they all sat down to breakfast, the children chattering excitedly about an upcoming school field trip. It wasn't until later, after the dishes were cleared and the children were engrossed in a board game in the living room, that Charlotte returned to their interrupted conversation. About that other thing, she began, her voice uncharacteristically nervous. I've been thinking about our living situation. Lucas tensed slightly. Their different homes had been a practical challenge, with overnight stays requiring advance planning and extra clothes packed for the children. What about it? It seems silly for us to maintain two separate households when we spend most of our free time together anyway, Charlotte said carefully. I thought maybe we could consider combining our families more permanently. Are you asking me to move in with you? Lucas clarified, wanting to be sure he understood. Charlotte hesitated. Actually, I was thinking we might look for a new place together, something that would be ours, not mine that you moved into or vice versa. Lucas was surprised by her suggestion. You'd be willing to leave your condo. I thought you loved that place. I love the people in my life more than any building, Charlotte said simply. And I think it would be easier for all of us to adjust to a new home together, rather than one family feeling like guests in the other's space. Lucas considered her proposal. The idea of creating a new home with Charlotte, a place where both families could blend on equal footing, was appealing. I think that makes a lot of sense, actually. Charlotte's face brightened. Really? You're not opposed to the idea? Why would I be? I love you, Charlotte. I love the life we're building together. I love you too, Charlotte said softly. More than I ever thought possible when you showed up in that ER 6 months ago. Lucas pulled her into his arms, marveling at how this extraordinary woman had come into his life so unexpectedly. We should probably talk to the kids before we make any definite plans. Of course, Charlotte agreed. Though I suspect they'll be thrilled. Tyler's been dropping hints about wanting to live with Emma for weeks. As if on cue, Tyler's voice called from the living room, Mom, Lucas, come see. We built a house for all of us with Emma's blocks. Exchanging amused glances, Lucas and Charlotte went to the living room, where the children had indeed constructed an elaborate block structure. See, Emma pointed proudly. This is our new house. There's a room for everyone, plus a science lab for Tyler and a workshop for Daddy. And a home office for Mom, Tyler added, but she won't need to use it much because she's going to be home more. Charlotte looked startled. How did you know about that? Tyler shrugged. I heard you talking to Grandpa on the phone. Is it true? Are you really going to be home more? Yes, Charlotte confirmed, kneeling beside her son. And actually, we were just talking about something else too. How would you feel if we all lived together, you, me, Lucas, and Emma? In the same house, all the time? Tyler's eyes widened. That would be awesome. What do you think, Emma? Lucas asked his daughter, who had been unusually quiet. Emma considered the question seriously. Would Charlotte be like my mom then? The adults exchanged glances, unsure how to navigate this delicate territory. I would never try to replace your mom, Emma, Charlotte said gently. But I would love to be a special grown-up in your life who cares about you very much. Emma nodded, seeming satisfied with this answer. And Tyler would be like my brother. Something like that, Lucas agreed. We'd be making a new kind of family together. Emma's face broke into a smile. I've always wanted a brother, and Tyler needs someone to explain things to him when he gets confused. Hey. Tyler protested, but he was laughing. Watching the children return to their blockhouse, adding new features and discussing room assignments, Lucas felt Charlotte's hand slip into his. I think they approve, she whispered. I think they're way ahead of us, Lucas replied, squeezing her hand. 1 year later, Lucas stood in the backyard of their new home, a comfortable house with plenty of room for 2 growing children and 2 adults who were still sometimes amazed by the turns their lives had taken. The yard was decorated with streamers and balloons, a banner reading Happy First Anniversary, hanging between 2 trees. Friends and family milled about, enjoying the casual barbecue celebration. Lucas spotted Charlotte across the yard, deep in conversation with his grandmother Rose, who had flown in from Arizona for the occasion. The 2 women had bonded immediately upon meeting, sharing a no-nonsense approach to life that transcended their different backgrounds. Penny for your thoughts, a voice said beside him. Lucas turned to find Harold Davenport holding out a beer. Just thinking how lucky I am, Lucas admitted, accepting the beer with thanks. Luck had nothing to do with it, Harold said firmly. You're exactly what Charlotte needed, a man who sees her for herself, not her position or bank account. And she's what you needed too, I think. Lucas couldn't disagree. Charlotte had brought joy, stability, and yes, certain material comforts into his and Emma's lives. But more importantly, she'd brought love unconditional and unwavering. "Daddy," Emma called, running up with Tyler close behind. "Can we show everyone our science project now, please?" "If your mom says it's okay," Lucas replied, the word mom coming naturally now. After much discussion and a few sessions with a family therapist, Emma had decided she wanted to call Charlotte Mom, while understanding that she had a birth mother somewhere who had made different choices. The children ran off to find Charlotte, who had smoothly transitioned into her new role as co-CEO, working regular hours and rarely missing school events or family dinners. The change had been good for her too. Lucas noted she seemed more relaxed, more present, more fulfilled. As evening approached, their guests gradually departed, leaving just the immediate family: Lucas, Charlotte, the children, Harold, and Grandma Rose. They gathered around the fire pit Lucas had built in the backyard, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. Later, after the children were in bed and Harold and Rose had retired to their respective guest rooms, Lucas and Charlotte sat alone by the dying embers of the fire. "Happy anniversary," Charlotte said softly, curling against Lucas's side. "I can't believe it's been a year since our first real date." "Best year of my life," Lucas replied honestly, dropping a kiss on her hair. "Though I still can't believe you considered that charity gala our first date," Charlotte laughed. "Well, it was the first time you kissed me." "That makes it official in my book." "I was terrified," Lucas admitted. "Not of kissing you, that part felt right from the moment I did it, but of everything else, the differences in our lives, our backgrounds." "And now?" Charlotte asked, tilting her head to look at him. "Now I know that none of that matters compared to what we have together," Lucas said simply. "You, me, the kids were a family, the rest is just details." Charlotte reached up to touch his face gently. "I never thought I'd find this someone who loves me for exactly who I am, not what I can give or what I represent. And I never thought I'd meet someone who could see past my circumstances to the man underneath," Lucas replied. "I guess we both got lucky that night in the ER." "It wasn't luck," Charlotte said, echoing her father's earlier sentiment. "It was meant to be." As they sat together under the stars, planning their future and reflecting on the unexpected journey that had brought them together, Lucas couldn't help but marvel at how one act of kindness, staying with a sick child in an emergency room, had changed the course of 4 lives forever. Different circumstances had brought them together, but love had made them a family. And in the end, that was all that truly mattered.